up is the weight that the back is supporting. We're not really supporting your legs, right? They're kind of doing their own thing. Now, that's fine. We're here, we're at green. So green is low chances of low back pain. And again, this is all statistics. We're talking about the risk of injury. Now, the next one, 20 pounds of weight. In front of us, 20 pounds of weight. On our back, we went up to 170. So just by increasing the weight 20 pounds on the front, we're now at 170 pounds on the back. Again, no problem at all, low risk of injury. The same 20 pound, let's put the same 20 pound 20 inches in front of us. 260. So 20 pounds, 20 inches, we went from 80 to 260. That's more than 3 times higher. And again, 20 pounds, it's heavy, but not something that we don't do on a regular day-to-day kind of thing. Right now we're talking about the major thing, right? Now we're talking about the same 20 pounds, we have to pick it up from the floor at 20 inches away. And now we're at 635. Now we're hurting our back from lifting a 20-pound object, right? And the funny thing is, it doesn't really have to be 20 pound. 1 pound object with the same lifting technique 20 inches away, we're still at a moderate risk of back pain, like an injury. We're still at 460 pounds of compression on our back by picking up a 1 pound object, which is, I don't know, a bottle of water, right? If you pick it over there, look what you're doing to your back. Your laundry basket, right? And usually those are kind of tricky because if they're big, you have to reach a little further away, but this is what you're doing to the back. And then that same 1 pound, you put it close to us, sitting, we're back down to 220, which is not too bad, right? So from this graph, I really like this picture over here, because you tell someone 20 pounds, they're like, well, I'm not really lifting 20 pounds, I don't have to worry about that. 1 pound is still gonna hurt you, right? Lifting options, there is not one perfect lift, because everybody changes, right? If you have knee pain, well, guess what? You might not be able to do a certain lift. If you don't have the right flexibility, you should not be able to do, I don't know, this or that. Lifting is dependent on each individual. You're more comfortable with different lifting. And it depends on the flexibility, strength, all that stuff. If you're picking a pencil, I really like this one. Golfer's lift, right? That's what the golfers do on the golf course, right? And you pick up the ball, right? It's light. You're not doing much about it. You're supporting, that's why they have their club, right? You're supporting yourself somewhere, and then you lift it. If you look at myself right now, look at what my back is doing. Straight. I'm not bending. I'm not doing anything. My hips, my leg is doing all the work. As long as I lift this leg, my back is safe. Right? Well, now this is tough if you're not holding anywhere. You need some impressive balance to do that, right? So again, you have to choose the lift for the proper situation. If you have a place to hold, table, here you go, back is safe. Much better than this, because again, it's not the amount of weight that you're lifting. It's the actual lifting that might tweak your back, right? Other lifts, let's say, power lift. Again, this is talking about lifting something very heavy, but the box has to be enough, like high enough from the ground. If you don't have a good form and proper flexibility for this lift, then you should not do that, right? You cannot lift something heavy and you're thinking that you're doing a power lift, but you're actually doing this, right? And what does a power lift mean? That means you're lifting from your legs. How many times you heard that? Lift with your legs, right? Don't lift with your back. What do you mean by that, right? That means that if I'm lifting this guy, my back should never move. What do you mean? My back never moved. My legs did. My hips did. My back never actually changed. Or I can do this. And that's lifting with your back. My knee never bent, right? And that's what we do most of the time because it's the fastest. You don't have to think about it. You just pick it up and lift it. And then, you'll feel that. Right? Versus, again, and it doesn't really matter how high how heavy the object is. I can lift something much heavier than this as long as I'm on the proper, right? I'm not keeping my arm flexed. I'm not doing this. Arms are perfectly straight. Again, so when it comes, as long as you can do that comfortably, that's a great lift. Now, that might not be the best lift if you're picking something really heavy that is very low, because there is no way you're going to be able to get this low. I can, because I've worked on it a lot, but to be able to get this low and still keep your back straight, that's impressive. If you can do it, then you go for the lift. Right? My back never arches, right? All at hips and knees, right? But if you start to do one of these things, we'll get ourselves into trouble, right? So again, that's what I mean by like picking the right one, right lift for the perfect one. If you're lifting something that you only lift with one hand, well, not like this, right? So again, this is lifting with your back. You're not really doing anything. You get yourself into like a split stance, and that's the kind of luggage. Weight is always in front of you. There is no reason to get into this position, then the weight is still too far away. You want to get yourself as close as you can to the weight. I've learned this one through PT school. We don't feel the weight of our body, right? You don't feel the weight of your arm or your weight of your leg. But if you have an arm amputated and now you put a prosthesis, now you feel that weight. So now that's heavy. You're like, wait a second, that actually is lighter. Usually like a prosthetic foot or arm, it's much lighter than your arm, but that's heavier for you because that's not part of your body. You're actually lifting a weight. Versus this is not a weight, even though it's heavier than what that is. This is no problem. So again, that explains that if you put the weight close to you, now that's kind of part of your body. So your body is more comfortable with that. Versus that's a weight, right? No matter how light it is, out there, it's heavy. Guidelines, right? All lift should be planned. When you don't plan a lift, you get hurt, no matter what you're lifting, right? You have to size up the load, right? So you kind of get an idea of what are you about to lift, how you're going to lift it, make like a mental plan, right? Just like you would do it, and then you lift it, right? That means that you're kind of getting ready for the lift. Most of the time, we get hurt because we do it too fast. We're not really ready for it. We don't know what to expect out of it, and we have no plan. We lift the object, then you have to decide what I'm going to do with it. You have to make sure you know point A to point B before you do that, right? And no twisting. I'm sure you've heard that before. You don't lift and twist. That will hurt you. So nothing like this, right? And that comes with a lot of repetitive motion. Doing dishes, right? Wash, put, wash, put. You have like a big pan washer which weighs like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 pounds. Or put. So your feet are never actually moving, right? The only thing doing is twisting, right? And then you do that for 30 minutes. I don't know how long it takes, but that's a lot of stress on our back. So if you can avoid twisting, or like depending on what you do on your job, there is a lot of jobs that this is what you do. I don't know, a cashier, ring, bag, ring, bag, right? You do that 8 hours a day and your back hurts. And then you can put those nice comfortable mats on your feet, which help, but yeah, they're not fixing your twisting, so you should avoid twisting, right? Bend into lift, right? You want to lift with your legs as much as possible, just like I was showing earlier. Your legs can tolerate a lot of weight. Back, not so much. A few more other ones. Firm grip. That's a big one, you know. When you try to lift an object that you don't have a good grip, you realize how much heavier that feels. Because you're never comfortable with the weight. You're always moving, right? You're always using different muscles trying to hold whatever you're lifting. So having a firm grip, so having something that actually has handles will improve your chances of not getting hurt, right? Let's see, no jerk movement or anything like that. Nice and smooth. When we do exercises here, the goal is to do it nice and smooth. If you do it too fast, you lost the point. If you do it too fast, you don't even know what muscle is helping you out. If you do it nice and smooth, we're actually using the right muscle, right? So that goes along with like when you're exercising on your own, you're doing a lot of things. You go to the gym, you want to get like your workout done in 25 minutes. Not necessarily. Maybe do half of your workout on half of your time. You don't have to do the whole workout in half of the time. It's not possible. You're doing it too fast. You're probably going to hurt yourself. Right? I used to be a trainer before being a physical therapist. And someone would come late and be like, all right, I have 30 minutes. Let's go really fast. No. You have 30 minutes. We'll work out for 30 minutes. We're not doing anything fast. Just because you're late doesn't mean that now you're going to get hurt. But that's how we work. We still want to get the same amount of work done in a shorter time, and that's how we get ourselves into trouble, because we're doing things too fast. And then instead of using your arm, you're using your back. And the back will always get hurt, right? It's already been tired throughout the day. It doesn't take too much afterwards. I like this one, right? If you don't have to lift it, don't. We move so much unnecessary weight. It's not even funny, right? That was like one of my jokes as a trainer. I was like, oh, you want to work out? Oh, why? That weight doesn't need to be lifted. So it's like, you got to think what we're doing. We move so much stuff for no reason. We get hurt, and then you're like, oh man, I got hurt, but that was pointless. Right? A lot of injuries that we do is with things that you didn't have to do in the first place. So why are we lifting them, right? Don't need to be lifted. Ask for help. Use the equipment. All that other stuff. And the main one is breathe. Right? I won't say maybe 90% of us, including myself, we forget to breathe when we're lifting, because we're so worried about the lift, and we hold your breath. And when you're finally done lifting, you're like, whoa, I feel like I'm going to pass out. That's because you're not breathing, right? And if you look at someone lifting, I like to do things like that, just see how other people do things. You'll realize that everyone is holding their breath, right? So this is a major one, and it sounds very easy. You're like, come on, breathing? Are you kidding me? It's a skill to do two things at the same time. Breathing is so natural is that we don't think about it. But then because we're not thinking about it, we also don't realize that we're holding our breath. So a lot of exercises that we do here in PT or anywhere else is breathing techniques. You breathe correctly, you can do much more things. I'm sure you've seen this picture before. So this was the idea that I was telling you earlier. We're strengthening the wrong muscles, we're stretching the wrong muscles. We need to get an idea like what the problem is and what do we have to do, right? Just like I was saying, our back is not usually the problem. Our back is hurting, but that's not the problem, right? The problem is our stomach. Our stomach is weak, right? It's putting more stress on our back. So why are we strengthening our back when that's not the problem? Same as the neck. My neck hurts. Well, what are we going to do about it? Strengthen it? That's not the problem. Your neck is not weak. It might be maybe a rare occasion that your neck is weak, but unless you realize your neck is weak, there is no reason to strengthen your neck, right? So here we have to find what the problem is, and I will guarantee you, just like I said earlier with my fake statistic, 99% of the time, the problem is your weak abdominals and your weak glutes, right? And it will take someone that has a little bit more specialty on this area to assess if your glutes are weak or not. Because glutes is a very interesting muscle on its own. You think they're strong, but you might not be using them correctly, or not even using them at all. And if you have to stretch something, a lot of people stretch their hamstrings, right? Right? They don't need to be stretched. If you have tight hamstring, then maybe, but most of the time that's not the problem either. Stretch your hip flexors. How many here ever stretch their hip flexors? All right? Don't even know how, right? So if you do stretches, I'll guarantee you most likely you're probably not stretching the right muscle. We keep overstretching our hamstrings. If someone here likes to run, or before you go for a walk or something like that, what's the first thing that they do? Let me get my hamstrings nice and stretched. Why? Right? You've been sitting for the past 8 hours. Now you're about to go into a walk, which involves even more tightness of the hip flexors. How about we stretch these guys?
How do you stretch those?
A little bit tricky, right? Different ways. I'll show you some stretches at the end, right? Because the hip flexors, that's where you really need someone that either is helping you with, or if you can do it on your own, you have to stretch the hip flexors without hurting your back. The more you want to, right, stretch the hip flexors, the more you're arching your back. So instead of trying to get what we want, we're actually, you're like, I'm not really feeling anything here. I'm actually feeling more my back. and stop doing it. If it doesn't feel where you think it should feel, then you're not doing it right. Right? So that's a tough one. That's where I would come in and really help. That's where a lot of people that I see, they're like, oh, that feels great, because they don't know how to do it on their own. And that's a tough one to do it on your own too. I'll show you at the end though. Now, exercises for the back. All of these are great. Some are a little bit more advanced than others, but this is very simple. It takes a little bit to get used to it, to making sure that you're firing the right muscle, right? What did we talk about so far? Where is your weakness? Abdominals, glutes. What muscle I tell people you have to fire before you come up? You fire your abdominals, tighten your core, and then you squeeze, fire in your glutes, right? If we do that, up and down, you can do it all day. Doesn't mean that you're strengthening your abdominals or your glutes. You can just keep pushing with your hamstrings and then get the exact movement and not any benefits out of it, right? I really like this one because it's not very difficult, but it just takes a little bit of kind of figuring out, making sure that you're firing the right muscles. And then from this, you go and switch around to the other position. What are we firing here? Same thing. Abdominals, glutes, right? All these exercises, if you see, we're doing exactly the same movement on many different positions. What are we firing here? Same thing. This is just a little bit more difficult because you have a ball in your feet, a more unstable surface. Now, abdominals, glutes, and if you ever done this exercise before, you realize that you're engaging your side obliques as well, because the ball wants to go side to side. So they are working to make sure it's staying still. First time you do this exercise, you're like, whoa, everywhere, right? Because we're not firing them properly, right? This here, abdominals, glutes. Here, abdominals, glutes. Here, you just have to kind of really focus on it and squeeze. This is one tough exercise. Plank. If you have back pain, guess what? You don't start with this exercise. Even though I have this on the good list of exercises, this is a very advanced exercise. It's a great one, I like it, but you start here, or even easier ones, right? I mean, there is hundreds of exercises out there. I can't talk about all of them, but this is just an idea of like what different exercise and what is the point of it. It's not a point to just, right? You can do that and never actually engage your abdominals or your glutes, right? So that's why you do it nice, slow, controlled, making sure that you're really getting what you're trying to do with it. And the next page is what most people do, right? Crunches all day, every day. Those side crunches with obliques all day, every day. I used to work at a gym. My God, it's like I need to put something on these guys to keep the power running. That's how many crunches they're doing all day, right? This exercise here, this is not a bad one, but this is a very tough one, right? I have this on the bad category because if you already have back pain, you should not do this because this is very difficult, right? And if you see a lot of people, they do that because they either have seen it somewhere or they're being told that lifting those legs straight, that's a good exercise. It's not bad, but it's very hard. So I put it and then might as well not do it. Might as well do other things than this one. And then my biggest pet peeve, this one over here, right? How many times you do crunches on a decline bench, or not even on a decline bench, on anywhere where you're locking your legs somewhere, or you go to the gym and you have your friend step on top of your feet and then you do your crunches. Well, guess what? More than half of that, you're engaging your hip flexors. This exercise is very easy because you're really pulling. Your hip flexors are a very strong muscle. They can do a lot of work. So when we lock our legs right here, that's mean that your whole upper body weight, you're really pulling with those hip flexors. And those were the muscles that were tight to begin with. They don't need to strengthen. They're tight. They're strong, right? So here you're strengthening the wrong thing. Crunches, why are crunches bad? It's too much unnecessary movement on your back, right? It's way too much flexion. What we do all day, we're already on a crunch position, right? This is what we're sitting, right? This is what the crunch looks like if you're laying down. So why are we doing more and more of this? We want to do less and less of this and more of straight, just like I was saying earlier. Look at all these exercises. Do you see any rounded back there? Nothing. All straight, right? Straight, 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 straight. That's the goal. If you want to work your core, just remember that. We're trying to extend. We're not trying to flex. We're already flexed. We're trying to break that. So that's why these are good and these are bad. Everything here, flexion. We don't need that, right? Flexion and rotation. This is a twisting. What do we talked about earlier, right? Our back doesn't like to twist. So why are we doing these things? Unnecessary. Again, all these will increase your chances of back pain, or it's not really helping you.